Greetings again everyone. A few months ago now, Sirui raised a few eyebrows by launching a very neat new lens designed for video makers, their 40mm T1.8 1.33x Anamorphic lens with autofocus. Now that was one enjoyable piece of equipment to use. Its image quality was good, but its autofocus system was admittedly a bit on the slow side. Well, now they've introduced a follow-up lens, a 20mm model. This lens is designed for Sony E-mount, Fujifilm X and Nikon Z mirrorless camera systems with aps-c sized sensors and on micro four thirds as well. Here is the coverage you get if you shoot with it on full frame. So with this lens, you'll definitely want to stick to aps-c shooting, which leaves you with the full frame equivalent of a wide-angle 30mm lens. Useful. And at T1.8, you can still get a little background separation from your subject. This new 20mm lens still has a 1.33x projection ratio, stretching your image vertically, so you can squidge it back down to keep better resolution for widescreen video work, as well as distinctive bokeh and flaring effects. It certainly seems like anamorphic lenses continue to capture the interest of video makers, so I reckon that if Sirui make a series of these autofocus anamorphic lenses, then they could be onto a winner. The lens's price is $800 or £691 here in the UK, which seems like potentially good value. I'd like to thank Sirui for sending me one of these lenses for testing, although as usual, this is a totally independent review. The big difference in this Cine lens is its autofocus, sometimes you never really see on anamorphic lenses, but also incredibly useful. I found the lens's autofocus to be quiet and accurate and a bit quicker and noticeably more confident than on the original 40mm lens. In fact, it was really reliable, including with subject tracking and nothing really in the way of focus hunting. Nice. So that can help you to get some great looking results here. The lens's build quality is quite tough and metallic. It's much shorter than its 40mm brother, but its geared focus and aperture rings are the same size and in the same position for easy swapping when shooting from a rig, and at 480 grams or just over a pound, it's not very heavy either. The rear mount features a USB-C port for future firmware updates, as well as a weather sealing gasket, which is always encouraging to see. The rear aperture ring also has metal grooves and can be set to turn smoothly for video work or with nice positive clicks in case you want things set in place a little more firmly. Then comes an auto manual focus switch and an autofocus locking button, which is slightly hard to press down. Then we get the lens's focus ring. It too is made of metal and features the same deep grooves as the aperture ring. I don't think it can be set to function in a linear style with the lens's focus motor, which is a disappointment, but it still works okay and quite responsively with the focus motor. Disappointingly for a Cine lens, it does suffer from some noticeable focus breathing, but at least it's only moderate. The lens does not come with a hood, but it does have a 77mm filter thread. Overall, as I mentioned, the build quality is fairly simple here, with helpful features for video makers, who the lens is very obviously aimed at, and it's pretty awesome to have even just a basic autofocus system available when shooting anamorphic footage, although this system is a big improvement over its 40mm brother. Okay, well, let's see about image quality now. I'll be testing this thing on a Sony a7R5 in its 26MP aps-c mode, but bear in mind 4K video footage is only about 8MP in resolution, so we don't need as much sharpness here as you might think. In-camera corrections were turned on for this test. At T1.8, in the middle of the image, sharpness and contrast are very good really. There's no real difference if you stop down to T2, but stop down to T2.8 for an edge of extra sharpness, and at T4 we get perfect sharpness and contrast. Anyway, let's open back up to T1.8 and look in the image corners. They look quite poor at T1.8, soft with high chromatic aberration. This will look slightly soft when shooting in 4K, but not terrible. T2.8 looks slightly sharper, as does T4, T5.6 and T8, although that rough chromatic aberration is still there. Overall, the lens's image quality looks very nice in the middle of your footage. When shooting 4K, your image corners might look just a touch soft at the brightest apertures, but will sharpen up upon stopping down. But it won't quite be suitable for shooting at any resolution beyond 4K in my opinion. Also, you might want to try and correct its lateral colour fringing. Okay, let's take a look at distortion and vignetting now. These images are taken with in-camera corrections turned off, but I can tell you now that corrections didn't seem to help with the lens's distortion levels, so this is the distortion you will be stuck with right here, and as you can see it's pretty wavy. Again, you might need to do some correcting here in post if you can. At T1.8 and T2, we see quite notable vignetting. Stop down to T2.8 for those corners to brighten up a little, but that's as bright as they get. The lens's minimum focus distance is a slightly long 40 cm. Close-up image quality definitely lacks the contrast we enjoyed at normal distances. However, stop down to T2.8 for a nice punchy image to return. Next, work against bright light, and this lens is deliberately designed to give you strong horizontal flaring effects, which it happily does for you. That flaring looks real nice, kind of fabulous really. Obviously though, it's an acquired taste, and not every video maker will be wanting this. I'm testing out the lens with neutral flaring here. You can buy an alternative version which flares in a blue colour instead, if you prefer. Next, bokeh. This lens can get you some surprisingly out of focus backgrounds for a wide angle optic with a nice subtle elliptical shape to them, and I always found the character and softness of its foreground and background bokeh to look real nice. It helps your footage to really jump out. Longitudinal chromatic aberration was not really an issue in my tests either. Overall, well, as you've seen, the Sirui 20mm T1.8 Anamorphic autofocus lens has improved autofocus over its older 40mm brother, making it much more enjoyable and reliable to use, but we're getting some obvious optical problems thrown into the mix as well. It's not a lens for anyone looking for a conventional cine lens with pinpoint sharpness, but the annoying thing is that, despite its image quality problems, I still loved using it. It enjoys a very useful focal length and bright maximum aperture, its anamorphic images look seriously lovely, and its autofocus system works impressively well. While it's not sharp enough for 6 or 8K resolution video footage, for 4K it'll be okay, just about, and its price is not unreasonable either for such a unique video making option. So this is one of those rare occasions where, even though it's not a very sharp lens and it has other image quality issues, I can still recommend it, as it's one of the most enjoyable video making lenses I've ever handled. Some people might be spooked out by my conclusion here, but honestly, sharpness isn't always everything, and play around with this thing for a few minutes and you might just be hooked. Okay, that was something fun and different. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. My usual reminder, check out the playlists on my channel to find the right lens reviews for your camera system. And if you'd like to support the work I'm doing in producing these sponsorship-free videos, then check out my Patreon page, where supporters get all kinds of exclusive bonus content. Ciao for now, everyone.